Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me to talk about Jayson Oweh from Penn State is the man himself, a man who gets up every morning just to look up all of the stats from beginning of football history all the way to today to make sure he's completely accurate about every single stat that's ever coming out of his mouth. It's Mr. Logan Landers. How's it going, Mr. Landers?
Jeremiah, I do my best each and every show to be the stat cruncher. I always try and look and see if there's any kind of tidbits out there that might be interesting to the folks that are watching us. But, it is Monday. We always film live, 8 a.m. Eastern time every Monday, me and you. And some people wake up, get their morning coffee to get themselves going. But some people like to do some meditation or yoga. What me and you like to do, buddy, we like to get ready, get some football in our system, and talk what we know best about the NFL draft coming up and about these young players. We had a good one today. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, without further ado, tell us about Jayson and exactly what three teams in our world famous, which three teams does Logan Landers think will draft our player? Tell us which three teams you think could be a great draft prospect for Jayson Oweh.
Yeah, of course. So Jayson Oweh coming out of Penn State, like you mentioned in the intro. This young man has a lot of potential around him. 6'5", 252 to 57 pounds, around that area out of New Jersey. And then people are really enjoying this kid and the just raw potential that he has, that he can potentially have in the NFL. Looking at some of his numbers when he was at Penn State, 2018, he didn't play too much, just had 4 tackles, but he did have 2 sacks. So even though he didn't play much, he had a pretty solid impact in just a few games. All right, and then in 2019, that was where he got a little bit more experience under his belt, 21 total tackles. He did have 5 sacks. That was his career high at Penn State. But where a lot of people kind of fell off of a few people's draft boards was this past 2020 season, because he did have 38 tackles, which was his career high. But the big thing that people were looking at was he had 0 sacks. So that kind of had people worried. It's like, okay, this guy had a really good 2019 season. He got a few sacks, but this past season he just couldn't get anything going. Is he for real or not? Well, while he didn't have the best 2020 season, I think what really turned his draft stock around most recently was his pro day. Because we all know all these draft profiles are getting their pro days around, this week or around this time. So you're finally getting to see more of their speed, more of their athleticism, more of their jumping ability, or their just pure strength also. And this is where I think Jayson is really starting to shine. It's perfect that we're going to be talking about him this week, because he impressed a lot of scouts and a lot of just fans of football, whether you're a Penn State Nittany Lions fan or you're just a football fan, that this guy is highly, highly impressive. So he weighed in at 257 pounds at his pro day, which was on March 25th, like just a couple of days ago. And what a lot of people are really talking about, that this guy, if he could translate it well to the NFL, is his 40-yard dash, which we all know that's where you show off the speed in a straight dash. So this guy, he's, like I said, 6'5", 257. He ran a 4.36 40-yard dash, which is very impressive. He definitely showed his speed. You can see in the picture here, if you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, he's got a lean body type to him. He's not a big guy. He's not bulky. He's got a very lean but also muscular type of body on him. So he's able to run that 40-yard dash in the 4.36 seconds, and you aren't too surprised. I mean, he definitely showed that he has the speed. But what I also liked is that he also did the vertical jump, which was 39.5 inches, which is very good. And also his broad jump, which was 134 inches. So this guy showed that his athleticism is off the charts. But the real question is, can he translate that insane raw athleticism into the NFL? We'll have to see. Now, he is playing second fiddle to Micah Parsons, who's looking like one of the best defensive players in this draft. But when they were at Penn State, man, they were a great duo. And it feels like Jayson kind of got left out of all the draft talk. It seemed like his friend, Mr. Parsons, was getting all the love. And Jayson, I think, took that to heart and really showed at his pro day. Like, look, Micah might be projected to, go early first round and stuff. But don't worry, I'm still here, and I'm still going to be doing my thing for whatever team drafts me. And I think that whatever team gets this young man, they're going to get a raw talent. They're not going to get someone who's fine and polished, like I said, like Mr. Micah Parsons is. They're going to get someone who has all the tools in his toolbox that can potentially do great things in the NFL, but he just needs a little bit of coaching, a little bit of seasoning, and I think he could really do great things if he's under the right system. And Jeremiah, you mentioned I always like to give out my 3 teams who I think this young man might be headed to at the next level here in the NFL draft, which is coming up in late April. So without further ado, let me get my throat clear. Let me get ready to get a good, proper introduction for these 3 teams. So the first team I have on my draft board is the Buffalo Bills. Now the Bills, they already have a really good team. Let's not lie. They are, I think, right near the end when it comes to getting to the Super Bowl. They just need a couple pieces. And if all those guys can produce like they did last year, they might be getting to a Super Bowl in the next year or 2, I believe. And if they can get a good edge rusher like Jayson Oweh is at the defensive end position, that might help them. If he's able to get his 2019 stats where he had those 5 sacks under him, that would be a great fit for him, I believe, in his first year. The second team I have him going to is the New York Jets, who are in a bit of a different situation, I would say. The NFL draft, you're more focused on their number 2 overall pick, and if they're going to draft a quarterback or not. If they do, then we'll see which one they get. It might be Justin Fields. It might not. You never know. Or, they might just go out and trade. You never know with the NFL draft. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens. But no, they're not going to draft Jayson Oweh at the number 2 overall pick, unfortunately. But they do have a good bit of draft picks that they can stock up and they can load up on, specifically, I think, and their defense. And I think that Jayson Oweh would be a nice start to kind of build that defense back up in New York, because they do have a few pieces they need to get fixed, and that I think if they want to become a contender, once again, it's been a while, but I think that you got to start building eventually. And if they get a new quarterback at the 2nd overall pick, that would be that kind of start rebuilding once again. But I think if you get Jayson Oweh, that'd be a really good bit. That'd be a really good piece for your defensive line, and he would help out a lot in the New York Jets system. And finally, the third team that I think he could personally go to is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I picked the Steelers as the team I think he might head to, and that's only because whenever I was doing some research on Mr. Oweh, is that the head coach for the Steelers, Mike Tomlin. He was there watching the pro day for all the Penn State guys, like I said, the Micah Parsons and the Jayson Owehs. And there's a quote I found that he said, "This is a freak show out here." So that lets you know that he is very high on the Penn State players. And if Jayson Oweh is able to drop to him, I really could see him going to the Pittsburgh Steelers and being a really good defensive end player for them, because they do need a little bit of help. Ben Roethlisberger, he's coming back, but you don't know for how long. They have I'd say a kind of a smaller window, because if you lose your quarterback, you're gonna have to build up a new one. And that can either go one way, which is great if you get like a Patrick Mahomes, or it can go downhill. You just never know. That's always a gamble getting a new quarterback. And we all know that Ben Roethlisberger has been a very good quarterback for many, many years in the NFL, but his time is coming to a close in the near future. But you got to have a really good defense. And I think if the Steelers were able to get Jayson Oweh, that would definitely bolster their defense and help them out in the long run for many years to come. And overall, I do think that if any of those 3 teams, like I said, the Bills, the Jets, or the Steelers, if they're able to get this young prospect coming out of Penn State, then they will definitely help mold his career and shape it into a very good one, I believe. And I think if he's in the right system, and if he gets, a few sacks along the way and a good bit of tackles, that he's going to really help out these teams and get them a few wins.
That's exciting. And for everybody watching, I think that you guys agree with me. Like, this is the type of player that does have that huge potential, but his draft stock is low enough right now that if he finds that good system, he could become a really legendary player. He's one of those players, he's kind of like a little middle of the road at the moment, but still very talented enough that we're doing a draft video about him. And I'm really interested to see, if he can find that, like you mentioned, that if he can find a great system like that. Mm-hmm. Well, for everybody watching, what do you think? What system does Jayson Oweh need to land in so that he can become a superstar in the NFL and not just, either ride the bench or be just a great secondary player or whatever, or a player that, is is there, but is not one that really rises to the top. Which team do you think needs to draft him for that? So let us know in the comments. And good morning to everybody who's joining us right now, especially everybody who likes to join us every morning at 8 a.m. on Mondays. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you are watching us on YouTube, Twitch, or on Facebook, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe and follow us so that you get the notification bell on so that you don't miss any of our episodes. We have live episodes that come out all through the week. And if you listen to us on our podcast, make sure you jump over to 100 Yards of Football wherever you listen to podcasts. We're available over on Spotify, also available over on Apple Podcasts, plus anywhere that you listen to podcasts. All you got to do is just look up 100 Yards of Football wherever you listen to podcasts, including on your Google Home device. Just say, hey, I'd like to listen to 100 Yards of Football podcast, and it'll pull it up for you immediately. So for the entire team here at 100 Yards of Football, I am the producer, Jeremiah Long, and you've been listening to an amazing draft profile from Jayson Oweh out of Penn State. And that was presented to you by the legend himself, the incoming legend and upcoming legend, a man whose draft stock rises as fast as Jayson Oweh and some of these other great players until we get him as the #1 pick for sports commentary. That's Mr. Logan Landers. So, Logan Landers, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just quick summary about this young man is that whatever team gets him, you're going to get an explosive player. Like I said, you're going to get a raw potential player, but if you're able to really get him in a good system, get him in a good environment, you might have a future Pro Bowler on your hands. So we'll see.
That's what's up. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll be back in just a minute for another live episode of 100 Yards